Hello, and welcome to episode 109 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
And WOTC was like, show notes, we got you, dog. And they banned everything.
Everything.
Like, this is probably the largest ban list in the history of Magic.
Yeah, I wanted to go through and count how many bans we had today versus how many bans we've had like earlier this year, where we've had more bans than any other time in Magic, and compare them, but yeah, I didn't get around to it.
I think it was like, maybe not individual cards, but I think there are 15 things that were banned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. So we're going to talk all about that, and maybe what this does to formats going forward.
A little bit. Some quick thoughts, I think.
Yeah, so if you'd like to get at us on Twitter, you can tweet at us at CasualTryPod.
Yep. You guys can also hit us up on Facebook at CasualTryHardMTG, or you can drop us an email, show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. If you guys are looking to pick up any singles, like maybe because your deck was banned out of existence and you need to find something else to play, or because Kaldheim singles are like ridiculously cheap right now, don't forget to use our TCG player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Anything that you purchase after following that link, we'll get a little cut off to help keep the show rolling. Also, don't forget about our Patreon if you want to support us a little bit more directly. Patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Patrons get early access to our show notes. I usually post them the day before the show goes live. And we record our kind of pre-show catch-up rambling sound check for patrons also, and that goes up usually on Tuesdays. Speaking of patrons, I have a couple secret lair codes that I need to do something with. One is for the Seb Artist Secret Lair. I think it's the like fairy-looking sleeve. And then I have one code for the Unfathomable Brutality of Basic Land sleeves. So if any of our patrons are interested in that, post up in Discord or shoot me a message. And first come, first serve, I'll pass those out. If nobody claims them by the time we record next week, I'll throw them up in the freebies area in Discord, and first come, first serve there also. Speaking of Discord, we have a Discord channel. You should check it out. There's a link in the description. There's a link on Facebook, link on Twitter. If you can't get in and you want to get in, get a hold of us any of the above ways, and we can provide you a link to get you into the discussion. I still do have a few Kaldheim pre-release codes. If anybody hasn't gotten one, post up in Discord. I've got maybe 7 or 8 of them. So post up and I'll send them out first come, first serve there also. We've been up to something else the last couple of weeks too, haven't we?
We have.
And what's that?
Putting stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, we got a pretty full channel now.
Yeah, so 3 more. Well, by the time you hear this, 2 drafts will have gone up. And a 3rd will come up on Friday. Mm-hmm. I might have 1 more draft. I'm trying to be a little bit more selective. Like, watch me go 2-3 because, like, in 2 games I don't, like, play is probably not, like, the best content.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to be a little more selective about what I put up. Also, forgive me, 2 of the drafts I recorded super late at night, so I might have been a little quiet, but we're getting there. I improved my thumbnail game drastically.
Yeah, they look awesome.
It's like I'm a professional. So going forward, I'm probably going to do a little bit less draft content. If you listen to the pre-show, the short of it is I'm just hemorrhaging money and I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So I put it in Discord and I'll put it out here. If you guys have like decks you want me to play, like I could play like, you know, some best of 3 or best of 1 with, and like, you know, maybe critique or make changes. I have a few decks that are definitively not on the meta and not anything anyone's talking about, but just things that like at the start of the format I had wanted to try that I haven't tried yet. Yeah. That I'm going to like play and maybe kind of do it as like a here's where I'm starting, let's kind of like build and see what we need to change and what cards look good and look bad. Like,
yeah, seems like an awesome idea.
So, you know, there are 2 decks that are built and need a number of wild cards. So I've got some packs to open, and then we can do So that might be a little bit more sustainable way for me to make some videos. You know.
Also, this weekend is the Arena Open. It's sealed this time. We're going to talk about it later on in the show, but as long as I don't scrub out super quick, I'll probably record that and post it up.
Yeah,
I plan on playing in it, so
I'll make him a fancy a thumbnail as well. So, we have a ton of bands to talk about.
Boy, howdy do we.
And I think what we planned on doing was just walking through each format and talking about like how this changes the format and like what to look for and like what decks are no longer decks. So I think we start at historic. We'll just work our way backwards. Yeah, I figured we'd
start with the newest and work our way to the oldest stuff. So we had 2 announcements for historic. The first one is that Amnath Locus of Creation is banned. It was suspended. Now it's gone for good. And Uro is also banned. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, like I kind of like Uro. They decided it would just skip the whole suspended thing. I guess we should also tell everyone, in case like we were under like a magic rock, people started talking about the bans on Thursday. And that was because Wizards was like, yo, check out this sick secret lair. Here's this cool Uro. And then under it, they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're banning Uro and everything. But we want to wait to make the official announcement until we get the larger ban list figured out. Yeah. So this was our larger ban list. But like they just like came right out and they were like, Uro's going away.
So did you see the Cardboard Crack comic?
No.
So they were making fun of Wizards announcing an Uro ban in a secret lair announcement.
Okay.
So the first panel, you know how they usually do 4 panels? The first panel is the ban announcement in the secret lair. And then it's like fast forward 3 months and there's a ban announcement like in somewhere in a pack of Magic cards or something.
Oh, in the like on the back of a token.
Yeah. And then the third one is like a ban announcement on a roll of toilet paper. Like someone's in the bathroom and it's on the roll of toilet paper. And then the fourth one is like there's a ban announcement being towed behind an airplane like in the sky.
I mean, it would make about as much sense as putting it in your like advertising.
Yeah.
I guess on one hand it was good that a bunch of people didn't buy their Uros for their fill-in-the-blank non-legacy deck, only to find out that they can't play it in their fill-in-the-blank non-legacy deck.
Yeah.
So, I respect the move. I do think it's funny that this is what it's come down to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like you could, like, got on the blower and been like, hey, could you on the 8th, could you announce it so we don't have to put this? And like, was the band people like, no, I need an extra week to figure this out?
Or, maybe like not make a secret lair for cards that are banned.
Yeah. Hey, like, I don't know when they like.
Yeah, I don't know what the lead time on the secret lairs is.
Also, though, like, if that lead time is too long, like, doesn't that mean that they, like, knew Uro was really good and they wanted people to, like, they thought people would want fancy versions of this card?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, Cruxa's not a problem and they're doing a Cruxa.
Yeah, fair.
And also, like, Inferno Titan and Frost Titan, like, nobody cares about Frost Titan or Inferno Titan.
That one Ponza player that is listening to this right now is like, how dare you speak ill of Inferno Titan?
They're very angry with me.
I'll
just counter that by saying that Primeval Titan and Grave Titan are much better than Inferno Titan.
This is true. Okay, so back to historic. So we sent Uro to the Shadow Realm, and we moved Omnath from
Purgatory to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, Purgatory to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
So this is good. I haven't played historic, like best of 3 historic in a while. If I'm bored and need some wins, I will. I
played a whole bunch of Reed Duke's Sultai list, and that pretty much doesn't exist without Uro.
Yes.
So I don't know what I'm going to play in historic.
Well, I think that because they didn't do anything to like red black sack or Jun sack.
Yeah.
Right? Like I feel like you have to identify what is the best Thoughtseize deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then you play that. Not just for James the Jun player, but I think for like the format as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? Like Sultai was the best Thoughtseize deck because Sultai had Uro and Thoughtseize.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can like, look at it and say, well, the win rates weren't all that good and blah, 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 blah. But I feel like it was like the most powerful card in the format is Thoughtseize.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to find a way to play that. And then like the next most powerful card was Uro, so you just played Sultai.
Right.
Right. So I think right now, right, this could open up being able to play like the Rakdos like Pyromancer or Rakdos Arcanist deck.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that deck was alright.
Like that's a solid Thoughtseize deck.
Yep.
And it wants to play an attrition game, and Uro doesn't let you play an attrition game.
Right.
So like that could be back on the menu.
Yeah, but like that deck might just lose to Muxus though.
It might just lose to Muxus. This is true. Like this is a concern. Like they didn't get rid of Muxus. They didn't take anything out of Goblins, and they didn't take anything out of Sack. Mm-hmm. So like I think those default to the two best decks. Mm-hmm. And it's, can you build something that like competes with them? Because like I was thinking like, what about like an Abzan deck where you get access to what's his name, Big Pig.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you get the Big Pig, who's Yasharn. There we go. You get access to Yasharn and Thoughtseize. So you have like built-in hate for.
You're almost pre-boarded.
Yeah, you're almost, which is what the Sultai decks were doing anyway. They're like, we can't ever beat Jun Sack or Red Black Sack, so we have to play Yasharn and like kill our mana. It's like, well, okay, now we'll just be Abzan, and like we're gonna be like Assassin's Trophy, Yasharn, and then like whatever other kind of white things that you can get that might be useful, right? Like, and just go with that, like getting some unconditional though like fragile removal, like banishing like kind of effects.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're green black though, like you probably don't need banishing light stuff because you have plenty of good removal.
Fair, but I was just trying to figure out what else white gave you other than Yasharn, because it feels like awkward to be like the Rock splashing Yasharn.
No, I think you can just splash Yasharn.
Yeah, you might be able to. You might have enough pieces there. But like,
I'm kind of flashing back to something that we talked about during the set review for Kaldheim, where you play like a removal tribal deck with like Serulf and Chevelle and just a bunch of good removal spells.
Yeah, you could do something like that where you like you do your best to keep goblins off of a critical mass.
Yeah.
And you again, same thing with like Red Black Sack. They have to have a critical mass of things, and if you're just able to kill the things,
right,
then it's fine. I guess you get Rest in Peace out of the sideboard, like Suck It Sack.
Yeah.
So like there could be things that you could like have to make the Sack matchup worse, or to make the Sack matchup better. But I think that you're gonna default to those two decks being the best.
Yeah.
And it's awkward, I think, that like some of the other bans in other formats were like, we're banning this other semi-random card.
Right.
Because we banned this other thing, and then that's going to make these decks too good.
Yeah.
And historic.
Not so in historic.
Yeah, historic, they're like, we're going to get rid of Uro. And I was like, well, sweet, I guess I just play against Mono Mayhem Devils now? Yeah.
Well, I also think that they're more apt to make changes to the formats on Arena.
Oh, yeah, this is true. Like, they can just like be like, yeah, it goes away, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So I think that like that's maybe why we didn't get an auxiliary ban, because they're more apt to just make a change on the fly.
Yeah. Also, like, in terms of like goodwill to like Magic players, like they should have just like made it rain Mythic wildcards today.
I mean, they did if you hadn't already been paid off for them.
I know, but they should have just done it again. They should have been like, you know what? You were getting to play your Uros in...
everybody look under their seat. 8 mythic wild cards for everybody.
Well, I mean, yeah, just like here. Like, you know, or just 4. Like, here are the 4 for the Uros that you can't play in Historic now.
Yeah.
Like, deep down, I know that, like, you can do the math on how much a mythic wild card is, but that is less money than the amount of goodwill you get.
Right.
To, like, offset the, like, you know, wow, the year of you printed garbage cards, what are you guys even looking at?
Yeah, I'm really feeling like the wild card stretch this time around too, because I've been so bad at this limited environment.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're 2 weeks in and I'm out of rare and mythic wilds.
Okay, I haven't opened my packs yet, but like I actually put more money in to like play some more, and like we're definitively not doing well. So like I think I'm done. But yeah, I'm not gonna open nearly. I usually open like 150 packs from drafts. I'm gonna open like 80.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just getting way less. So yeah. So that is going to be like, you know, just make people happy. Just be like, yo, here you go. So your job in Historic is to find the best Thoughtseize deck, and if that is Jun Sack, then that's what or you know, Red Black Sack. That is the world we're going to have to live in for a while.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing with that deck is just like there are times where like nothing you did mattered.
Right.
You're like, oh, I got attacked twice. I'm at like 14. I guess I just die because they have 4 things on the battlefield. I guess this is just enough damage to kill me. Okay.
Yeah, they accompanied and hit a Blood Artist and a Sack Outlet, and then you died.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, that was cool.
Yep.
I'm glad I made it to turn 5 to like, you know, just let a bunch of things die. So there's that. Like, I feel like they could have like banned Phyrexian Tower just because.
Yeah, you think that's the problem in that deck?
100% no. But
okay,
it's a card that Goblins and Jun Sack both play.
Yeah, I don't think Goblins cares if you lose Phyrexian Tower though.
But it can bring its power level down a little bit. And I'm not saying that is like the answer. I just feel like Phyrexian Tower is like an egregious Magic card in that format.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of the format.
I wonder how much like that existing in Historic is them trying to make Historic different from Pioneer though.
I think it probably is. And like, you know, just them like throwing like random cards into the format. Right? Like with the jumpstart cards and stuff like that. But yeah, like that kind of stuff. But like what happens is you get these like wild power spikes where it's like, okay, like I have like Mexis, Phyrexian Tower, and Thoughtseize. Like those are the best. Like, you know, like I don't think Mayhem Devil is like rawly powerful as much as it like once it has all the pieces around it is.
Right.
But like you've got these cards that are just like way better than like everything else. And it's just like, I guess I just do this thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when like Archangel Avacyn, a simpler time, right? When Archangel Avacyn was the best card and like every deck was just white so you could jam Avacyn.
Right.
Right. I feel like Historic is like, well, Thoughtseize is the best card, so every deck just has to be black to play Thoughtseize. And Phyrexian Tower is really good, and so it lets me every so often it'll let me Muxus like a full turn sooner, so I guess I should play it. And I have a Sack Outlet in my land, so and that's all I want from my life is a Sack Outlet. So okay, that's cool too. So I don't know, it just seems like you could have done something to try to bring that down without like killing the deck. Yeah, because right, like if you get rid of like Cat, like that deck just probably doesn't exist, or it's not nearly as good.
Yeah,
like if you get rid of Mayhem Devil, the deck doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. So like, what is something you could like do to like take it from like a 9.5 to like a 9? Or something?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like Midnight Reaper maybe, but like that's a card that's fine to exist.
Yeah, like that's not the problem. It's something else.
Right.
It's something else in that deck, and it's like, is it
Yeah.
Priest of Forgotten Gods? Is it Mayhem Devil? Right? It's like, well, you get rid of Tower. Like, Tower's not doing anything good in the format.
Yeah.
So maybe getting rid of it brings the power level of these decks down a little bit so other stuff can compete.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Just a thought. Like, just what is something you could have done that, like, touches both of these decks? And, like, that's the only card that they share sometimes.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I think Goblins sometimes plays Thoughtseize out of the sideboard, right?
It does. Like, I think
And especially now that we have the red-black pathway, I'd imagine more decks are going to adopt it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, I think in best of 3, like, if you're playing a combo deck in your Goblins, game 1, you just, like, race.
Yeah.
And then game 2, like, if you had some interaction, and, like, it's not going to take you off, like, racing too much.
Right.
Like, you're still going to be able to race.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that you could definitely do that. But, like, I don't think you take Thoughtseize out of the format.
No, I don't think so.
Because it, like,
especially not if, like, you're going to need it for Pioneer whenever that comes.
Yeah, very true. Speaking of, look at this. Professional.
Look at that.
Pioneer got some bans.
Okay.
So, Uro again went away.
Yep. And then Brian gets hit with another whammy.
Well, I did say maybe a month ago that there was no way that we were going to have Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer when we went back to playing Paper Magic.
And we don't, because they're both banned.
Yeah, so they basically just banned Oops All Spells.
Yeah, there's no way that deck exists now.
It doesn't. Like, those were the two cards that made it work and make it work in literally every format.
Right.
So those are the only two cards that do that thing in all of Magic. So they made those go away. They banned Teferi Time Raveler.
Yep. Supposedly they did this because they were afraid Niv-to-Light was going to be too good, and they wanted to not kill the deck, but just kind of deflate it a little bit. So Teferi was to kind of take some of the wind out of Niv-to-Light. But, like, the new versions of Niv-to-Light play Tibalt because you can still bring to light it.
Yep.
So I don't know how much, like, Niv-to-Light's been disabled.
Yeah, like, the versions that we played against way back at the Dumpster Fire Open like a year ago, right? Teferi was in the format, but was not played in the deck, and the deck was still, like, the best mid-range deck. So it's probably still a very good mid-range deck.
Yeah, I think so.
Even without Teferi, like, you know, just getting the, like, you know, we all played against Teferi Time Raveler. We know the nice warm snuggy feeling you get from just like, oh, my 5-mana 5-color thing 100% resolves here. Right? Like, that's nice. But yeah, I don't think it's like the end of the world. And then because they took Teferi away, they were like, maybe we should get rid of Wilderness Reclamation.
Yeah, Teferi won't be there to keep Wilderness Rec in check, so.
Like, deep down, did they, like, print Wilderness Rec and went like, oh man, this thing's a problem. You know what we should do to fix it? Teferi Time Raveler. Like, that's fine. Like, what if they had, like, that card designed and then they just tacked on the static?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, we made a super unfun card.
The most unfunnest.
Yeah. Like, so. Right, so Uro, like, okay, I'm not touched on Pioneer in a while, but I think Uro is just the same thing that it was in every format, which is just the best mid-range.
Yeah, it was Sultai Uro was. Yeah,
I guess so. Like, that Sultai, that was what Yoel Larson? Yeah, Yoel Larson won with Sultai Uro, like, right after it was, like, printed. And, like, that deck, I think, has just been floating around, even with everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
Spy and Undercity Informer.
Kills Oops.
Kills Oops. Literally one deck.
Yep.
In my tweet today about this, I was just like, I guess next combo deck up. I don't know if the combo decks in the format were in fact too good, so they needed to be banned, or if it was they've just decided like we want this to be like standard, we want this just to be like a bastion of like mid-rangey stuff.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it in the next section, but they slaughtered a bunch of combo decks in Modern too.
But that's funny, like, you know, they want diversity and they want you like all playing Uros all the time. But they're like, we don't want you playing Uros, but you know what we do want you to do? We want you to like kind of have like a homogenized format.
Yeah.
In that like we're kind of removing one option for things to do.
Yeah.
It's like you get these decks, but this combo form of deck we want what you have. You have aggro, you have mid range, you have control, but no combo. Don't get that. No. So it's just weird that like, you know, the next time there's a combo deck that is like good, does it just go away? Like what if like what if there's like a Kinnan Paradox Engine deck?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I mean, there is in Historic. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to port one to Pioneer.
Chromatic Star. Is the big one. Yeah. Chromatic Star and Mind Stone.
Yeah.
Like you don't have those, right?
Yeah, but you have
Sylvan
Prophetic Prism. Yeah, you got Caryatid, Prophetic Prism.
Yeah, you have like,
and you get both Mana Dorks. You get Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic.
Yeah, like you can do something with that shell. But my point being that like, okay, if that deck ends up being good with all of its moving pieces, is like, well, nope, gotta get rid of that.
Yeah.
It just seems like you know,
another Simic Mythic bites the dust.
Yeah. Or just like are they just hard on the no combo for this format? Or no good combo?
Maybe.
Or is it just that like the good combo is like way out of range with what like the rest of the format does? Because like the last time they did bans, they banned cards that were like actively being played in combos, and they were like also Kethis.
Yeah, just because.
Just in case we're gonna get Kethis, in case something good happens with Kethis, and it's like, oh, so we're just getting everything.
Yeah,
cool. I don't think that Spy or Undercity Informer were doing again anything good for the format.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, they weren't doing literally anything for the format until they printed the spell lands.
Yeah, but yeah, I just I regret never ever getting to play those cards.
Pioneer.
Yeah. The world without Teferi is always a better world.
I agree.
So, like, I have nothing bad to say about them getting rid of Teferi.
Yep, and I'm fine with them getting rid of Wilderness Wreck also.
Yeah, like, not having to worry about playing against, you know, Expansion Explosion, 85 mana.
Yeah. I feel like Wilderness Wreck was just kind of Storm with less steps. That's what it felt like to lose to Wilderness Wreck.
Yeah, where it was just like, well, I have a card that is my quote-unquote Storm card. I need one.
Right.
And, I mean, and the fact that, like, just left your shields up constantly.
Yeah.
Was just like, so, fine with that, too. I've got no beef. I think that, like, Uro going away probably gives you more, like, aggressive decks that can actually be viable.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Like, remember when Mono Black was, like, the best deck?
Yep.
Yeah, like,
I don't know if we're quite going to go back to Mono Black being the best deck, but aggro is certainly more viable now.
Yeah, you don't just have this thing that just, like, sits on you.
Yeah.
So, like, that's probably good. Like we said, like, Niv is probably good. Omnath is still in the format.
It is. It loses Uro, but is still a very powerful thing to do with lots of enablers still.
Yeah, so, you know, there's definitely things to do that are going to be busted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like, that was fine. Once they get Pioneer on Arena, which was supposed to happen soon, right?
Yeah, I still think it's coming up. I don't remember what the timeline is.
Like, I felt like it was, like, in this quarter, so it would be, like...
I wanted to say April, but I'm not...
maybe. Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know why April popped into my head.
That's fine. Like, that's kind of the... So, Keldheim's been out for a week.
Mm-hmm.
God, it feels like longer. Or like maybe 2 weeks? A week
I think
or
it's
two.
2 weeks, yeah.
Right? So we're gonna get to that like lull where they like throw something at us on Arena
Yeah.
in like another 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see.
It just says 2021. It doesn't give a
Okay.
date.
But like
It was
once
supposed to be out the end of last year.
yes, and then they made it Kaladesh instead.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yep.
But like it'll be nice to play Pioneer when it gets on Arena.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it'll have a different feel than Historic.
Yep.
All right. Now Modern.
Modern.
So, we've got cards that are banned because of what they've done, and then a card that is banned for what it could do. I don't know. So first, to stick with consistency in formatting here,
Okay.
Uro was banned in Modern.
I mentioned that. Uro is now legal in only Legacy and Commander and I guess Vintage.
Yes. Uro is like not legal in any format that your mana base does not cost a kidney. Uro was kind of just the mid-range control. It's what it was in every format, right? It was just like, I'm going to play this dumb thing, get a life buffer, bring it back, and then it's going to win the game. It's going to like bridge me. It's going to be my go over the top thing. It's just everything I want. So
well, when they got rid of Urza, that's kind of what the Urza decks turned into, was Uro decks.
Is Urza banned?
Well, they got rid of Opal.
Yeah.
And Astrolabe.
Yes. So okay. Yes. So yeah. Then yeah. Those mid-rangey piles turned into Uro mid-rangey piles.
Right.
Then they got rid of Field of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. So we're back to the drawing board for Titan decks.
I mean, like, that drawing board is just like
Valakut
again?
Yeah, I mean, it also gets to go back to playing those weird, like the weird lines that make that deck really hard to pilot.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, we like kind of raise the difficulty level on the deck.
Yeah.
So Field of the Dead, like one of the best decks in Modern for the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since Zendikar. Since Zendikar Rising came out, was like green, white, Primeval Titan.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like playing white for like Path and Skyclave Apparition.
Yep.
And then the deck just put as many lands as they possibly could onto the battlefield and then played a Field of the Dead.
Yep.
And then won that way. So there were these like usually like 30 land decks
or more
that just played like some white removal in Skyclave Apparition and Path, Elvish Reclaimer.
Yep.
Primetime, Summoner's Pact.
Yep.
And that was basically the deck. And then you're just like, I have 4 Field of the Deads. I will get these, and just every land drop from my 30 plus land deck is like 4 power minimum.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just 20 power.
Yep.
And right, if you're a control deck, you can never in a million years beat that. Right. And like they played Dryad of the Elysium Grove, and it's like, oh, that's a 2/4. I'm mono red. I can never beat that.
Yeah.
So they just kind of had all their bases covered, and it's just like a miserable card.
Yeah.
In that, like, you're just going to, like, when they play it, you're like, oh, I just can't beat this. There's just a number of decks where you're just like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. I've got to throw my obligatory I called this in.
You did. You did.
Nobody was talking about this card during the spoiler season.
Nope. You like mentioned it, and I was like, 7 different land names. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Nope. No, it was not a lot. It was not a lot at all.
It's not.
It's not a lot. Yeah, I think the Titan decks go back to like red green.
Probably.
Or they they get back to, like you said, or they become like more fiddly.
Yeah, I mean, they either go back to the Valakut lines where they're just red-green, or they go back to like the weird amulet piles.
Yeah. All right. So, the innocuous little... This was a common, right?
It was a common.
Mystic Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 3 islands and you play it, you get to put a spell from your graveyard on top of your deck.
Yep.
Which is all well and good until you just cast a cryptic command every turn and put it on top of your deck.
Yeah, and it's also an island, right? So you can fetch it.
Yes, that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Is like if you just put like 2 of them in your deck when you have your 3 islands. You're like cryptic your thing, draw a card, fetch, put my cryptic on top, draw cryptic for turn.
Yeah.
And now I just counter, bounce my Mystic Sanctuary, replay Mystic Sanctuary, and just
call that a soft block.
Yes, and it's just like you don't get to cast any spells basically the rest of the game.
Yeah, as long as you're just playing 1 spell a turn.
Yeah, you just get to not let them do anything.
Right.
So that was miserable, and like it just kind of led to repetitive game states. Yeah, it's not fun, and like you're just like, oh, I guess they're going to cast this same cryptic a bajillion times.
Yep.
I guess I don't want to do this. This is not fun for me anymore.
It's not fun for me.
It's not fun for anyone. To be real. Be real. Logan, our resident control player, was like, I'm just sad I never got to like do this to anyone in person. Like they took it away from me. I never had a chance to do it. And he's like, oh man, my poor taking turns deck.
Yeah.
Because, Mystic Sanctuary was pretty good in taking turns. I need to make sure I have a time walk next turn.
Okay.
Fetch, get a time walk. So then this next card, pour one out for like our last like piece of fast mana in Modern.
Poor Mana Monkey.
Simian Spirit Guide is banned. So Simian Spirit Guide is one of those cards that, as other things in the format had gotten banned over the years.
Yeah, it always kind of skated under.
Yeah, like it made no sense that it was like gone. They're like, Chrome Mox, gone. Mox Opal, you're fine. Mox Opal, gone. Mana Monkey, you're fine. And now they're just like, all right, Mana Monkey, it's time to go.
Yeah, your time has come.
Yeah, this is the one I said that was like banned for what it can do. Because like, if you play Simian Spirit Guide, you're up to 0 fair things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing right now that is busted with the Mana Monkey. But,
is that true?
Like, nothing...
I mean, there's a couple decks that kind of come to mind a little bit. And that's kind of what I was alluding to when we were when we were in like the Pioneer section talking about banning combo. Simian Spirit Guide makes Adnaz unplayable. It makes Neobrand unplayable. It makes Grishol Brand unplayable. And it makes the Tybalt's Trickery decks unplayable, right? Or mostly unplayable.
The Tybalt's Trickery decks, they took care of that by banning Tybalt's Trickery.
Well, right, but...
So, like, Ad Nauseam was a playable but not, like, super good deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been, like, just a hair over tier 2.
Yeah. I mean, they do have the ability to, like, just... when they draw their deck, instead of Lightning Storming, they can, like... Oracle, but they need more mana. Right? They just don't get to draw, like, mana out of their deck.
Right.
So they would need more mana to make that happen, so it does slow them down. So it probably does take Ad Nauseam and just render it unplayable. But but Ad Nauseam isn't, like, a busted deck. Right? Like, I feel like, it does, speed up the Cascade combo-y kind of decks. But it also, like, gets rid of, like, turn 2 or turn 1 Blood Moon. Or turn 1 Chalice of the Void.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother archetype that I hadn't brought up yet.
Yeah, but, like, it gets rid of those. But there's, like, I think it was banned because in the future, it could enable some, like, turn 1 or turn 2 combo, like it's been doing because they were sloppy with how they worded a mechanic 10 years ago. 15 years ago or something. And so they're just taking it out because we want to make sure that we don't have another turn 3 combo. And I guess, like, you could argue that, like, it was played in Oops All Spells,
and
it was played in the new Charbelcher decks.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was in this announcement or if it was in some of the commentary that I'd been listening to about the bans today, but they mentioned that the Spirit Guide might have been for the new Belcher decks.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that there's definitely a chance that was the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that one was kind of like a little bit on like what it could do in the future, and probably the Belcher decks. Because they took care of the other problem we mentioned, Tybalt's Trickery.
Yep.
You have here fastest ban ever. I think it is like the fastest ban in Modern.
Probably. I mean, it was legal for 10 days.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Omnath made it longer in Standard. And Omnath got banned pretty fast. No, I guess Felidar Guardian was around for a while. Yeah, I think it might be the fastest
was around for
card.
a little bit.
The fastest card that has been banned. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think the only other one I could think of was Lutri for EDH. That was like a day 0 ban.
Yeah.
But that's not really the same. Because like that card just doesn't work in EDH.
Yeah. Yeah, it just can't. Like, you just play blue-red. And you put a Lutri in your sideboard. Or whatever, your companion zone. Because they don't have sideboards. Tibble Trickery, as you all know, if you've played some Best of One Standard, which I haven't yet, right? 1 in the red, counter a spell that can spells control and mills 3, and then they reveals 1, 2, or 3 at random.
Yeah.
And then they reveal cards until they hit a spell with a different name than the one being countered, and they get to cast that spell.
Yep.
So, the way Cascade works is when you Cascade and you hit the spell, the Cascade spell's still on the stack. So you hit the Trickery counters targets the Cascade spell. Then you spin the wheel on your Tybalt's Trickery, and then you hope to hit an Emrakul. And with the power of Mana Monkey, you could do this on turn 2. With the power of Mana Monkey and Gemstone Caverns and being on the draw, you could do it on turn 1. Right? And just be like, yo, Emrakul, I'll take an extra turn. Attack you.
Don't mind if I do.
Good talk. So, yeah, I mean, even if they ban, like, the Cascade spells were always... the deck was set up that you had, like... You either had some whammies... or you just were like, I'm going to play Trickery, and then I'm going to play my Cascade spells. And I'm just going to always hit my Trickery, and then cross my fingers and hope that I hit an Emrakul.
Yep.
And so they decided that was no good. Which, cool. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. That deck didn't need to exist.
No, it did not. What does this do for Modern?
I think that like mid-range decks are probably free again, right?
You might be able to play Jund.
Yeah, either Jund or Death Shadow I think are probably both fine. I know there was a lot of hype from the Jund players talking about Tybalt and cascading into it, which you can't do anymore. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I think Jund is still in a fine spot now that Uro's gone. And Death Shadow. I think Death Shadow's probably fine now.
Yeah, like... And again, like we said a couple weeks ago, right? Like, it's like impossible to trade 1 for 1 when every card has stapled draw card on it.
Right.
And the biggest offender of that was Uro.
Yeah, and like Jund also gets to play Uro's redheaded stepchild, whatever, Croxa.
Yeah. So, like,
you're still kind of doing the same thing, but...
Yeah, they have their recursive engine that they can kind of lean on as well.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree that, like, the mid-range decks might be able to, like, hang a little bit more now.
Yeah, at least give them a little bit of room to breathe.
I do like that Burn is probably in a better spot when, everyone's not just... isn't going to cast Healing Salve 5 times in a game.
Right.
So that's probably good for them. Like, wait, I have to do 35 damage?
And I mean, Burn's also better, like if Death Shadow's good. Not that that's a particularly easy matchup, but
No.
it's
Yeah,
it's a matchup that they can win for sure,
Yeah,
as opposed to running into Uros.
yeah, like, if they're like Fetch Shock Thoughtseize and you're like, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you take. I have enough damage that I can kill you. I just have to avoid you playing like an 8/8.
Right.
Okay, let's go. Or I have to like plan around you having an 8/8 on turn 2. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I can do this. And like having Burn be like a reasonable deck does like make it the entry point into Modern.
Oh yeah.
Remember when Burn was one of like the most played decks?
Yeah.
Like this is
simpler times.
Like 5 years ago, I remember playing Burn and like putting like having ley lines in my white ley lines on my sideboard for the mirror. Like you would never now in a million years be like, I gotta worry about the Burn mirror.
Right.
Like never. So it might be good for Burn to be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like having, a good entry-level deck for a format, too. That's healthy.
So, all the degen decks took a hit. Yeah, I think all the decks that aren't trying to play Magic just got a little bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, not that, like, Prison was a degenerative deck, but it's certainly a deck that leveraged the Mana Monkey.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like the outlier, like the Prison decks. Again, that's not a deck that's, like, widely played. But, like, all the hotness of Oops and Charbelcher and those things are markedly worse without the Man, the Myth, the Monkey.
That's right.
But the fact that they're, like, a turn slower now probably does lead to a situation where, like, the Juns or, the Death Shadows that, like, might need an extra turn to, like, draw their Thoughtseize. Right? They keep a 7 without a Thoughtseize. Like, oh, I get to go to turn 3, and I know I'm not going to be dead.
Right, or they need their second hand disruption spell.
Yeah. Like, ooh, I have, like, 2 more draws at my other piece of interaction, whatever that is.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like, if it's Grixis Death Shadow, you're like, oh, I can Thoughtseize you, and I have, like, 2 turns to try Stubborn Denial.
Yep.
Whereas before it was like, oh, I have, like, a turn, and if I don't draw this, I just die.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, so just slowing them down a little bit might allow for a little more interaction, but doesn't get rid of them. I mean, other than, like, ad nauseum. Like, Neo Brand, like, it doesn't need Simian Spirit Guide. I don't think it's, like, a deck that is, quote-unquote, like, 100% gone.
Right.
But it does lose the ability to, I guess, like, the like combo off kill you aspect of it is gone. But
well, right, because you can't draw your deck and then win.
Yeah, but like you still have the the ability to like get an early Grizzlebrand into play.
And
you do have to some degree you could like still do like the you might have to pass the turn. And then, like, all right, on your end step, draw, play, Nourishing Shoal, draw, and, like, try to win the following turn. But it does slow you down a turn. Like, you have to kind of commit and hope your
I mean, if you're trying to win with Oracle, though,
yeah,
like you have to survive a whole nother turn. You can't just win on their turn in response.
No, that's what I mean though. Like.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get your Grizzlebrand back to your turn. Or you have to get all those cards back.
Right.
Right? Like, you could, like, draw, and then, like, gain a bunch of life. And then draw, but you have to make it back. No, it makes it way worse. Like, it probably does just go away.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah.
And Oops probably doesn't exist, right?
Oh, no, I think Oops still exists.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that like, it's having to get the 4 mana is like a heavy lift. I'm not gonna like argue that in Modern getting the 4 mana is easy.
Yeah.
But like, get to 4 mana, have like maybe win the game is probably fine. The things with like Oops, now that you have the spell lands, is you're not just like a pile of nonsense and like fast mana,
Yeah.
you're a pile, like you can be a pile of like the spell lands and interaction. Like you could play like a reasonable kind of game of Magic.
Yeah.
Right? You're still playing lands and spells.
Do the Oops decks play Lotus Bloom?
I don't think. I mean,
I wonder if there's a version of that deck that does, because you also have Mox Tantalite too.
Yeah, where you just like suspend it.
Yeah, and then just go off on turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. Like you play those 8.
Yeah.
You're like, here, I play these, and then, yeah, I mean, you could do something like that. It's different, like than it was, because right, you're not playing a bunch of like single source mana things.
Right.
Right, like you could play Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
Right, like you 5 yourself on turn 1, but you could play Thoughtseize. Right. But I mean, there might be matchups where, like, you know, you're playing against blue-white, and you're like, cool, I want to bring in Thoughtseizes and Inquisitions, and I'm just going to, like, try to Thoughtseize you so you can't rest in peace me.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my plan. Whereas, like, the old versions, like, that wasn't something you could do. Like, the legacy versions.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that deck exists, but I think it's significantly worse. And I don't know, like, if that was, like, the best version. I don't know if like Charbelcher might have been better. And like it might hurt Charbelcher more because they were like more all in on like, you know, trying to cast what is it called? Ironcrag Feat and just like doing the thing all in one turn.
Right.
Right. So you lose those like turn 1 and turn 2 kills. But like turn 3 is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think those decks get way worse, but I think they still like exist. It's just like what else is in the format that might keep them down.
Right.
Right. Like if we just go back to like everything being like Jund or Grixis Death Shadow, then those decks are like wildly unplayable.
Right.
Right. Because like everyone's playing 8 discard spells, and then the other guy's playing like a bunch of counters to go with the discard spells. Like I can't win.
Yeah.
Right, but that wasn't an issue when like you couldn't play Thoughtseize because your opponent was just like, cool, I'm going to draw like 15 cards this game.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you take one of them, I'll beat you with a ham sandwich.
Yeah, I'll find another thing that I can beat you with. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think the blue decks are still going to be fine. Like
I mean, people that are like down for casting cryptic commands are still going to cast cryptic commands. They don't. Yeah, I don't think they're. I mean, they're probably miss Mystic Sanctuary, but I don't think it's going to kill the deck at all.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what podcast I was listening to or what YouTube video today. They're like, now the control decks have to. I think it might have been Bandwagon. Now the control decks have to actually work to go over the top of people. Right, because before you just got to go over the top of everyone because you just got to loop cryptics with your Mystic Sanctuary. But now, like, you have to actually put cards not in your mana base.
Yeah.
To go over the top of someone. So, like, they might not get to play, you know, Archmage's Charm and Cryptic with Mystic Sanctuary and all this other stuff. Like, they might have to actually, like, put in more, like, legitimate, like, win cons or, like, ways to, you know, beat.
You know, they got a new win con.
What is their new win con?
Starnheim Unleashed.
This is fair, yeah. Yeah, I lost one of those in a draft.
Ooh, that's fun.
Everything looked good. They like attacked, I blocked. They didn't put 12 Power of Angels into play. I was at 12.
Yep.
I was like, cool.
Good times.
Cool. I guess that 5 for 1 I got with my Song of Frost and Fire. I guess I needed to be an 8 for 1. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, no, but they actually have to, like, do something else. Like, they don't just get, like, infinite cryptics.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't think it, like, makes... The people that were playing blue-white or just got control before, like, when it wasn't, like, really playable...
Right.
Are going to keep playing it, regardless of, like, how good it is.
And,
like, that's fine. Like, live your life.
Yeah, you do you.
Yeah, but modern, like I think we talked about it, it's super hard for control because like there are
You got to be
realistically,
ready for so many things.
yeah, realistically so many like decks,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, I sat down against Tron, and I brought in all my Tron sideboard cards, and like the matchup got to like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you had to devote 9 slots to Tron, and then you play
Right.
against like Burn, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I don't have enough anti-aggro cards because I had to beat Tron.
Yeah.
Right? And then like every like random thing in between. Like, oh no, I'm gonna lose to Pure Steel Paladin. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'd expect this.
Or elves or swans.
Swans. Or like Hammer Time. Like Hammer Time might secretly be like one of the best decks in the format now.
Maybe.
Which is like wild to say. A deck that like Saffron Olive kind of birthed into the world is now like a legit tier 1 modern deck. So hey, they come from everywhere.
That's right. Those darn fire design uncommons.
Yeah. Did you? There was a Magic AIDS video where he was talking about like I think he was replaying Humans.
Yeah.
To like try to beat up on the Tybalt decks this past week, and he went through this whole big breakdown about how like pros had to master every format, so they didn't play a lot of new cards. They always kind of fell back on modern deck lists that they like had been around for years, so new cards didn't come into the format as quickly.
Okay.
And that when people that weren't pros would play cards, people would go like, well, the pros aren't playing them, so they must not be good. Mm-hmm. And he was like, now he maybe took a little too much credit for this, but like he's like, me making Humans and then a Magic Pro picking up my deck list kind of validated that non-pros can make legit Magic decks, and that has kind of like changed the perception of like online like content producers and their ability to influence the metagame.
All right, I can see that.
Yeah, like I don't know if you could like 100% say it's him, but like look at like Crokies. Like think of the number of like pros that just go and watch Crokies and then play the Crokies deck or some version of it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, our Lord and Savior Crokies. Right, but just kind of the changing face of like how people play, how people like view content creators.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like Seth played that deck and people thought it was cool, and then it started winning, and then people tinkered with it and they like have a version that is like a tier 1 deck.
Yeah.
So, all right. The format that is near and dear to my heart that now literally costs organs to play. Legacy. So, Oko is now only legal in Vintage.
And Commander.
Yep. They were like, no more Oko. I guess the fact that it rendered every text box on every card useless was a problem.
That's the biggest thing. Is he's just an answer for everything. Yeah,
it's like, oh, you're playing a Chalice of the Void deck? That's cool. Oko, elk your thing. I will now cast my Ponder. So Oko's gone, which good riddance as a Depths player. Like one less thing that can turn my Merit Lage into something useless. I am all behind. That was one of my great fears about playing like Depths was like, oh man, like usually you had to play around like Jace, but now you also play around Oko. You can never just make your guy at sorcery speed. Okay, Oko. And then we have Astrolabe is gone.
Mm-hmm. Which is another good one. Yep. Yeah, another common from the last 2 years.
Now, did you see their logic behind this one?
Why don't you explain it?
Well, part of their logic was so it enables you to play 5-color decks, but also play like all basics.
Yeah, so you don't get punished for playing 5 colors.
Yeah, so like you can't get wastelanded.
Blood Moon or Back to Basics or
some of the decks played Back to Basics in them.
Right.
So it was like, I'm gonna play Back to Basics in my 5-color deck because I have Astrolabe and I just fetch up piles of basics.
Right.
So like it kind of took away the deck building constraint of balancing weakness to Wasteland and Blood Moon and back to basics versus like the power of the spells. You're just like, I get to play everything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it kind of undermined like what Magic is about.
Yeah, the entire mana system on which the game is built. Yes.
Right.
It's kind of make everything was just Hearthstone mana. I have this many. I have this many. I want to play this card. I have this many. Okay, good. Then we have Dreadhorde Arcanist, which we've talked about when it was spoiled. It did not scream Legacy All-Star.
No, but if it turns to like a Ponder every turn or a Brainstorm every turn, you just end up burying your opponent in so much card advantage and selection that it's kind of hard to come back from. It's one of those cards where, like, if it survives a turn cycle, you've probably just won.
Yeah. No, that's what I was going to say. Like, we didn't look at it as like this like amazing card, but the fact that everything in Legacy costs 1, and like you're playing all the selection and hand sculpting, that it was just a must-kill threat.
Right. Like, plus, it also not only does it rebuy all of the hand sculpting stuff, but it rebuys like all of the prominent removal in Legacy too.
Yeah,
so it rebuys
plowshares.
Yeah, swords, path, bolt,
fatal push, like everything.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I meant was push, not path.
Yeah, it does like everything. Right. It's just like a free spell every turn.
Yep.
And that's just too much. It was one of those cards that, like, when it got resolved, people were like, I have to kill this or I just, like, die.
Right.
And so it going is fine.
Yeah, it's also pretty easy to protect in Legacy.
It is.
Which is kind of another reason that it's so egregious.
Right. Like,
you're playing Dazes and Forces or whatever. Like, you have some protection for it.
Yeah, like, you have this... you're willing to like 2-for-1 yourself and force it, or force whatever's going to kill it, because you know it's going to draw you 3 cards over the next couple turns, as opposed to like, oh, I don't want to be down a card. It's like you're down a card now, but you're going to be up 3 cards in 2 turns, so you might as well just do it. It's going to
pay it back pretty quick.
Yeah. Uro apparently is okay in Legacy.
For now.
That's what I was going to say. So, like, Bandwagon today, Matt Ness and LSV were like, I don't think its power level was, like, outsized in Legacy. And I think that they are kind of underestimating just, like, what it does. Like, they're like, oh, well, it's a 3 and a 4 mana thing, so there's a much higher, like, bar. I think they also mentioned that in the, like, ban announcement. They're like, oh, we didn't get rid of our Legacy because, like, it costs 3 or 4 mana. Yeah. And it's like Legacy games have, like, turned into these, like, long slogs.
Yeah, I mean, we did like a whole thing about this when we were preparing for that GP we went to, where we kind of transformed depths into a deck that can grind.
Yeah, and like the format is, and that was before Uro.
Right.
And like, you know, Uro makes it so like depths has to be fast because you can't grind with the Uro deck.
Right.
Right. So I think that Uro will hang out, but I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of decks that like coalesce around Uro. So I think we're going to have like your red, blue, X Delver decks that like we've just always had, right?
Yeah.
And then there's
I mean, I also think that there's, you know, an argument to be made for either a Sultai or a Temur Delver.
Yeah.
With Uro.
Yeah, well, it might not be. It might be more mid-range. It might not be Delver at that point. But my first thought was that the thing you want to do in Legacy is you like play Bug Shardless almost, right? Where you're the Thoughtseize, Force of Will deck, but instead of like your card advantage being Shardless Agent into, Ponder, Brainstorm, Ancestral Visions, your card advantage is just Uro.
Yeah.
Right? You're like Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Thoughtseize, right? Like you're really good against combo, right? Because you're the Thoughtseize Force of Will deck.
Right.
Right? You're good against aggro because you're the Uro deck. You're also good against control because, like, you're the Uro deck. Like, the thing that makes you weak is that you're also, like, against, like, Delver, is you're weak to Wasteland.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to, like, you're on probably, like, 2 Underground Seas, 2 Bayous, and a Trop or something. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you could also very easily, like, Uro's going to pay you back for whatever you're doing. So there's no reason that you couldn't shield yourself from some of the Wasteland stuff with Mox Diamonds, though.
Yeah, you could
like
Mox
you're
Diamond.
going to recoup the card advantage.
Yeah, you could Mox Diamond, or you could just, like, play more basics, God forbid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to have, like, the wild, like, I have 2 Dreadhorde Arcanists, 3 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Lightning Bolts, and then, like, Sultai cards that we had before.
Right.
But you could definitely be, like, more of a hard Sultai deck with, like, Uro taking the place of, like I said, like, Shardless and Ancestral Visions. And then, or, like, Mox Diamond be a little more, like, oh gosh. What was that? I guess Punishing Fire kind of thing. It would not Punishing Fire, but be, like, one of those kind of decks where you're, like, Mox Diamond to get ahead on fill in the blank thing.
Yeah.
I think a turn 2 Uro is still really good. So, yeah, like, I still think that, like, we're going to end up there.
Like a loam deck you're talking about?
Yeah, like loam deck or something where, like, you can take advantage of Uro. Like, I think we're going to get to those kind of things relatively quickly. Because that just seems like the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, like, you're still going to have your Delver decks hanging out, but, like, Delver against, like, Uro, you're just, like, leaning super hard on, like, please, dear God, let my Wastelands be good.
Yeah.
Because I can't ever, like, beat the 6/6, not in a million years.
Yeah.
So it'll be good that the format's just not a bunch of Snowco piles.
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree.
Like that basically, well, last weekend it wasn't a bunch of Snowco piles. It was something else.
Yeah, what was it last weekend?
Last weekend was it was all Turbo Tybalt.
Yeah.
So we have one more ban to talk about, or I guess unban.
Unbanned. We get Loris back in Vintage. All you Vintage players rejoice.
So if you've sold both your kidneys and your house, feel free to play Loris's. The logic here was Loris is completely and totally busted when the companion rule is completely and totally busted.
Right.
So let's unban him now that the companion rule is a little bit more reasonable. Right, just so you don't have, like, this random card from 2020.
Yeah, that's the only power level ban in the entire format.
Yes. Like, that just seems weird. Let's, like, not make that a thing.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about the Cascade mechanic a few times. And they changed the way that Cascade works.
Yeah, so the way it used to work is that when the Cascade spell was on the stack, you would exile cards off the top of your library until you found one with a lower CMC than the Cascade spell, and then you would cast that spell. At that point, Cascade is done with, and if you hit a modal double face card, you got to pick which side of the card you were going to cast.
Yeah, because
Cascade is done. It doesn't care what the CMC is anymore. Now you're moving the spell to the stack, and you get to pick which side.
Yeah, because it was just like cast it without paying its mana cost.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, which side do you want to cast without paying its mana cost?
So now Cascade doesn't finish until the spell is on the stack. So you cast a spell with Cascade, you reveal cards off the top of your library until you hit a card with CMC less than the Cascade spell. And then part of Cascade now is that you cast the spell with less CMC than the Cascade spell.
Yeah, you can.
So they kind of just extended the window that Cascade encompasses and requires you to have it be less CMC.
Yeah, basically now Cascade checks to see when it goes to the stack,
right?
If the converted mana cost is lower.
Yep.
They had to fix something like this before with split cards.
Right.
Where the solution there was we're just going to add the cost of the two spells on the split card together.
Yep.
And now that's going to make the CMC higher, so I can't cascade into it.
Yep.
Like, I thought that like another way to fix Cascade would be to, like, it kind of does the same thing, was like to change card to spell in the reminder text.
Yeah.
Like this, so
that way it could only ever be the front face.
Yeah, so like a spell with lower converted mana cost, like you may cast that spell, so like you may cast that card. So that way, it's specifically saying that spell,
right?
Not the card, because like you move the card to the stack and you pick which side. It's going to be the spell. It's like, no, it's that spell, which is effectively what they did here.
Yeah, but I think it said in the like description though that they did it this way so that you could cast like the backside of Cosima.
Yes, that's what they said. Like you could you could Bloodbraid into Cosima and then be like, I want the Omen Keel.
Right.
Which, yay. Which is fine. Like I see, like it does let you do like less egregious things, like when the mana costs are closer together.
Yeah.
Right, when it's like 2 on the front and 1 on the back, or 2 and 2. Like, okay, cool. But when it's, 2 on the front and 7 on the back, like that's too big of a difference. Yeah, that's too big of a difference to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, it also doesn't help that Tybalt like immediately draws you 2 cards.
Yeah. Or
and then in a couple turns, it's going to draw you like 20 cards.
Yes. So, no, I agree that like I am fine with this rules change. Like, again, I'm not like a rules scientist, so I'm assuming the way they did it is like the best way to have done it. But it gets to
I think for the most part, like what I've read is everybody's pretty happy with the way they did it. So
yeah, like it gets to the heart of what needed to happen. Was like the intention with Cascade was never that you would be able to play a 3-mana Cascader and cast a 7-mana card.
Right.
Like, that was not the spirit of that rule. The spirit of that rule was you were going to cast something with lower CMC. So now we have that. So that takes care of, like, what was the best deck in Legacy for, like, a weekend.
And Modern.
Yeah, did you see those deck lists, though?
No.
They played, like, 12 pitch counterspells.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did see like Misdirection and everything. Yeah.
Misdirection, Force of Vacation, and Force of Will.
Yeah.
I saw people with Commandeer.
Whew.
Like, they were just like, this is happening. I have a whole handful of stuff that says this is happening. This is happening. Yes. And it's just like, oh, okay. Also, they played Oko.
Yeah. Well, because why not?
Yeah, like, oh, my broken plan somehow got messed with.
Yeah.
I give you Oko. I give you my fair plan.
Yeah.
Oko.
Yeah, I watched, what's that guy's name?
Anu?
Anurang or whatever. Yeah, I watched his video on Thursday or Friday or whatever day it was.
So, I showed restraint when I was buying my Kaldheim cards. I'm still like a few cards short. But when I was buying my Kaldheim cards, I did not buy any Tybalts.
I bought one I didn't buy any. I opened a Tybalt.
Yeah.
And I bought a playset of Extended Art Trickeries.
I don't think I bought Trickeries. I might have. That might have been the one that I was like, We'll keep
They were
this.
cheap. I didn't get foils, but I got extended arts for like $3.50 a piece.
Okay, like when I got on there to look for them, they were like $5. I might have got them, I might not have, but I didn't get Tybalts because like this could not stand.
Yeah.
So we've brought this up a few times. Are you feeling the burn of Fire Design?
Yeah, in between when they made this announcement and when we started recording, I had tried to go out and, get some other people's opinions on this BNR just because it's so kind of big and unprecedented. I wanted to know what the general feeling out there was. So I watched some people that had made content about it, not necessarily to impact my own views. I just kind of wanted to get a feel for, what the community was thinking. And I didn't hear anybody talking about this, but it struck me as strange that we have, I think it's 6, either commons or uncommons, produced from Fire Design that have been banned in numerous formats. That's just bizarre.
So we were talking about it on the pre-show, I think. You have Lucky Clover.
Yeah.
Mystic Sanctuary.
Yeah. Wilderness Wreck. Veil of Summer.
Yep. Astrolabe.
Yep. And then Cat, right?
And then Cat and Standard.
Yeah.
I was saying that, like, I feel like there's such a desire to make the limited environment good and interesting. And I think the way that they thought that you do that is you, like, up the power level.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing is you're like, okay, I'm going to up the power level on these commons and uncommons to make the draft environment more interesting, or to like support an archetype. And they just don't take the next step and go like, well, what if I played 4 of these?
Yeah.
And every card from the draft set that supports this.
Yeah.
Or, in the case of like Cat Oven, like, we've made Red-Black Sacrifice a C- draft archetype for the last 18 months. What if we put all of...
What if goes to 11?
Yeah, what if we put all of those cards together? Yeah. Would that be a deck? And it's like, oh, it 100% is. You basically put every card that says, like, Sacrifice on it.
Yeah.
It's not just complete and total garbage, and you have a deck. Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, you could even put some stinkers in there.
Yeah, you can. I mean, or like you look at, like we said, Lucky Clover. What if I put all the adventure creatures with Lucky Clover and Edgewall Innkeeper? Because like both of those cards were there to like make the limited environment work. Like, ooh, we want to have a green something adventures deck.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's complaining about that green-white horse that gets counters, right?
No, green-white horse that gets... Oh, that one.
It's like wandering something or other.
Oh, yeah. When you cast it... Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no one's complaining about that, but it's like, oh, this is like the power level is a little too high. Like, it's one thing if it's... Someone said, like, imagine if it just had, like, you paid a mana for it. Right? Whenever you cast a creature that has an adventurer, pay 1, draw a card. Like, Edgewall Innkeeper is fine to unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
Same with, like, Lucky Clover. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, pay 1, copy it. That is fine to unplayable. Right? There's a super fine line, right? Like, if it was, like, half a mana, maybe that's the perfect line.
Yeah.
But it's like,
that's actually something that Jim Davis had said. I told you I watched some content from a bunch of people. That's one of the things that he said is that Astrolabe is probably correctly costed and not broken at 1.5 snow mana.
Yeah. Where, like, it's not 1 mana, but it's not 2.
Right, because Prophetic Prism isn't good enough.
No.
Like, we've established that. But Astrolabe is way too good.
Yes. And so, like, what is the, like, happy medium? And it's something that they can't do.
Yeah.
And, like, when you miss by half a mana, like, it's too far. So there's all these cards that were like free things to like hold the limited environment together that were just too good, or things that they just missed just a little. And again, I think it was like, how can we make the limited environment good? Because I think Astrolabe's only purpose was
to grease the snow wheels for limited.
Yeah, like, we know the snow deck's going to end up being like 4 colors. We need some way for people to be able to cast their spells.
Mm-hmm.
Astrolabe.
I mean, I can see that for the cat and for Lucky Clover, Astrolabe, but like that doesn't really explain Mystic Sanctuary, Wilderness Wreck, or Veil of Summer.
No. Wilderness Reclamation, like, I think I know what its job was in Limited. Right? Which was...
It was for...
Mutate. Not Mutate.
No, not Mutate.
Oh, God. What is it?
No, not Evolve.
We'll get there eventually.
Oh, man. This is the content that our listeners love.
Yeah.
Our customers, yeah.
When we can't think of the name of whatever the Simic mechanic was.
Yeah. Adapt.
There we go.
Yep.
Where it was like, I can adapt on my turn. Yeah. Wilderness Reclamation untaps my lands, so I can adapt another thing on their turn.
Yep.
Like, I think that's what it was there for. But, like, they made some...
It ended up just casting Nexus of Fates on turn 4.
Yeah, well, they made an error that is, like, weird. In that, like, Prophet of Krufix and Seedborn Muse do this on each of your opponent's upkeeps.
Right.
Right? So, they were like, well, we don't want to do that because then that makes Wilderness Reclamation too good in Commander.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is we'll make it happen at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
But then, like, you just get to float all the mana in response to the trigger.
Right.
Right, so, like, to make the card not, like, just the best thing to do in your green commander deck, they made it the best thing to do in, like, standard. Because, like, it would serve the same purpose in limited, right? Like, you just... Mm-hmm. But then it messes up commander. So they're like, nope, can't do that. So
I wonder how much of that is because they don't have any control over the commander ban list.
Yeah.
Like if they're so willing to ban this stuff out of like regular constructed formats, but they don't have control over what's banned in commander. I wonder if they have to be more careful with the commander stuff than they do regular.
Maybe. But I feel like they like just care about commander in that they need to like support it to like sell packs. But it's pretty obvious that like I don't think they care about, like, how Commander games play out.
Yeah.
Like, just based on, like, hey, let's print this, like, absurd Commander. Cool, I guess that's what we have to do now. Like, this is just the best version of this Commander, so, okay, cool, I guess I do that now.
Yeah, you guys think Black Lotus is cool, right?
Yeah. So we'll do this. This will be cool. This will be the cheap Black Lotus.
Yeah.
But that didn't end the world like everyone thought it was going to.
Well, I mean, everybody also thought it was going to be a $15 Magic. I think hasn't gotten below 80.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there is the fire design like issue where like I have no idea what Mystic Sanctuary like
was supposed to do.
None. All the other ones are just garbage.
Yeah.
And like you can say like, you know, putting a card on top is not great. Right? It's a blue thing, but it's not great. Like, I don't know, like if it like entered the battlefield and target creature couldn't untap during its opponent's during its controller's next untap step. Like,
I mean, that would still be pretty good, I think.
But not tap it, just it doesn't untap.
Oh, just okay.
Right, like that's I guess on par with putting a +1/+1 counter something on something, or making a food,
or making a dwarf.
And what was the black one? You put a creature on top.
Put a creature on top, yeah.
So I guess maybe it was like, well, putting a creature on top and putting a spell on top are similar.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm sure the black one's gonna be an issue when there's like a, you know, some deck that lets you
like at least
creatures.
Black doesn't get to bounce stuff though.
True. right?
Like
But
that's kind of the problem with blue is that blue lets you bounce.
yeah, so you just get to keep redoing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've designed all these cards to like on some level tie together like limited environments, and they just are too powerful.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe Mystic Sanctuary's job was like, we banned all these cards out of blue cards out of Pauper. We got to give them something.
But didn't they ban this in Pauper?
But it was after like they banned Daze and like they banned like 3 cards, 3 blue cards, like Daze and Gush and something else. So maybe this was like, okay, like we'll give them something, and they're like, oh god, we've gone too far.
I'm pretty sure they banned this in Pauper too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. But
yeah, they did.
Yeah. So something that's come up in, the idea that it's okay that Wizards has missed all of this stuff because look, the community missed all this stuff. Right? So that's fair. And people didn't thought Hogak was bad until they started playing with it. And they missed this or they missed that. And I'm not going to make the same point I made in the pre-show. But what I will say is, didn't R&D play with all of these cards for literal months before they got printed? Didn't they realize what was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if people had to play with these cards before they realized they were good. Cool. Let me show you a group of people that played with these cards but did not realize they were good.
Yeah.
Like that is a problem. The thing that I don't know about, and might be the answer to all of this, is that how many times when something's on its way out the door, someone further up, it's like this card needs to be better.
Like the skull clamp thing?
The skull clamp, well, they thought that made it worse.
Right, but the same idea though.
Yeah,
is what you're referring to.
Yeah, where something may have been tested at one level.
Yeah,
and then
somebody turns a knob and doesn't test it.
And doesn't test it thoroughly or at all. Right, so, if you looked at Oko, right, and someone was just like, well, let's turn that -1 into a +1.
Yeah.
They might not realize how ridiculous of a change that is.
Yeah.
So they do that, and it's like, oh, I guess that was not a good idea. So Oko starts at 4 or 5?
It goes to 5.
Both the +2.
Yeah.
Right, so it starts at 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine, if you will, a world where Oko elking a thing is a 0 or a -1.
And then it just dies to whatever you just elked.
Yes. Then, there's, thought. And do I elk this? What do I do? As opposed to, I just elk it, it goes to 1, then I play my blocker and I plus it.
Yep.
And I'm fine.
And now you can't win.
Yeah, yeah. And now you're dead.
Yep.
And, it just seems like some of the cards just missed something.
Mm-hmm.
They just missed interactions and, I don't know how that happens consistently.
It keeps happening, though.
It does. It does. So, we've talked all the bands.
All of the bands.
We can't figure out draft, but you are wading into the world of Limited once again.
I am. I don't know why, but I am. So this weekend is the Arena Open. And in the past, we've had an Arena Open for Standard, and we've had an Arena Open for Historic, and now we have an Arena Open for Limited. But they told us we're not allowed to draft.
Yeah, because God forbid there's a 7-person pod.
Yeah, well, I think that's just the way. I don't think they can do a 7-person pod with the way drafts are set up on Arena.
Right.
I don't think that they can fire one. And I'd heard people saying that, or I think LSV said that, you don't just have, if you have 5 people show up in your last pod, you don't just have one 5-man draft. You have as many 7-man drafts as would negate having a 5-man draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think that Arena can have a 7-mana.
Yeah, they might not be able to.
Yeah. So it's sealed, which, isn't great, but I like sealed.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do the Arena Open this weekend.
Yeah, sounds good. Have
Yeah,
you
I'll give
practiced
it a
it any?
Not really. I did a couple back when I was hemorrhaging gems when I just, and I'm just going to dump some gems into it and see what happens.
Awesome.
So I wouldn't call it practice, but I have played a little bit.
So anything that you noticed?
Like as far as insights into the format, not really.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Kind of just the same as normal. Play your bombs, play your removal, hope the mana works out.
Yes.
I mean, there's not much more to seal than that.
Yeah, I mean, the good part about this is kind of like Ravnica, where you have all the duels.
Yeah, I mean, your fixing's great.
Yeah,
you have duels in your land slot sometimes, plus that
Shimmer Veil.
Yeah, the Shimmer Veil's fantastic in this set.
Yeah, so like those are the these are the kind of sets where you just are like, I'm playing like everything that is good with a single pip of mana.
Right.
That like my lands even remotely let me play.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to figure it out from there.
Yeah, and like as long as one of those colors is green, it doesn't even matter if it's 1 pip or 2 pips, because you get the Glitter Frost or whatever.
You get Glittering Frost, and you get Sculptor of Winter, which turns like all of your snow dual lands can become like 2 of the color.
Yeah.
Because you're like, untap it, tap it again for the same color.
Yep.
So the structure is a lot more, the buy-in's a lot more gold than these have been normally. So it's 22,500.
Mm-hmm. So it's a lot.
It's a lot. Or 4,500 gems.
Yeah. It's kind of nice because they let you pick best of 1 or best of 3 for day 1.
Yeah.
But the payouts are weird. I don't remember. I don't know if brought up.
Yeah. Part of the cost of the higher cost is that these aren't phantom. You're actually getting to keep the cards.
you get to keep the cards.
So it's like when you do a sealed GP, remember those? Right?
I do.
Like a regular GP is like $50 or $60, and a sealed GP was usually like $80.
Right.
80 or 90 or something, because you were paying for the product.
Right.
As well, and that's kind of what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm. And you're also paying for, like, the people that are buying in on day 1 are also paying for the sealed product for day 2 also.
Yeah, fair.
So that's why it costs more.
So for best of 1, it's 7 wins or 3 losses.
Yeah, which is good because it gives you a couple shots, but the payout isn't anywhere near as good.
Best of 3 has a better payout?
It has a way better payout. Like, the best you can do for best of 1 is if you go 7-0, if you get 7 wins, you get 2,000 gems, your qual for day 2, which like half pays you back. Yeah. If you get 4 wins in best of 3, you get 5,000 gems, so it does pay you back.
That seems just wild.
You can't drop a game in best of 3, though.
Yes. Well, you can't drop a match.
Yeah, you can't drop a match.
So you have to go 4-0.
Right. Whereas in best of 1, you can take 2 losses.
Yeah. It's similar? ? Right? Like, so you've got to win 8 games in the best of 3, and you can lose 2 games. Or you can lose a game. Yeah. Because you can't lose 2 in a row. Right? But you can go 2-1, 2-1, right. 2-1, 2-1.
Right.
Right? But like, yeah, I don't know which one's like more difficult.
I think best of 3 is more difficult.
Probably. Like, the number of times like I've lost a best of 1 game, and it's like, oh, that wouldn't happen again because I would play around fill in the blank thing, are like infinite, and like not being able to like just like running blind into oh, I'm not gonna attack here in case they have a haste creature, and then they have like a Goldspan dragon.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you're also like the thing that I was thinking is I'd rather play best of one because when you're building a sealed pool, like the chances of you having decent sideboard cards are slim.
Yeah, I know that Newmont brought up at one point that Kenji said that the worst part of his game is sideboarding. So like he
Yeah.
enjoys like best of one for that. Like he doesn't have to worry about that part of it.
Yeah. Like I guess my point was just that your sealed pool, like you may not have any sideboard cards. In
Yeah,
which case, if you signed up for best of three, like that's kind of rough.
Yeah, like you might have like 23 playables done and done.
Right.
Right, and then you've got like a bunch of like just cards that aren't good enough.
And then, like, if you're playing best of three, you run the risk that your opponent does have sideboard cards against you. And you're kind of banking on the fact that you're able to glean more information out of your opponent's deck than they're going to glean out of yours.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which,
I mean, person that has like 2 broken wings and you have the 6/6 demon, or you have like the lantern.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, well, bringing in broken wings because this answers all of my problems.
Yeah.
And like you don't have that option.
Right.
And it's just like, oh.
Like if you're paying 4,500 gems is a lot. I mean, that's not something somebody's just going to randomly, queue into. You're going to be somebody that has at least a little bit of knowledge and not going to be a slouch. So
like if you spend like $100 and buy like the 20,000 gems or whatever, so this works out to be around like just under $25.
Yeah.
So it's like 22 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 22 to 25 depending on probably like how you buy your gems, like in what denomination. Right. Yeah, so people aren't just gonna like YOLO,
right,
and do it. I will say that I have not seen, not that I've been glued to Twitter, and there's some other stuff going on, but I've not seen the like quarterly, is the arena open predatory for letting you rebuy tweets.
Yeah.
So that's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
But again, like just remember when you see your favorite content creator that's not me or James tweet like first try super easy, right? Realize that there's another content creator that is on like try 7.
Right.
That is like, oh man.
I mean, not to like blow anybody's spot up, but Christos did one of, I think the last one of these, the historic one, and I was at work and had a little bit of downtime, so I hopped onto Twitch to watch him, and I think he ran into a brick wall 4 times in a row without a win, and just like hemorrhaged gems every single time. And I mean, it wasn't anything that he did wrong. It was just bad matchups, bad opening hands.
Yeah, and he was on goblins. It's like, oh, I'm on the draw. Well, now I'm like 45% to win this.
Right.
Oh, I have to mull to 6. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Good games. So yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, just keep in mind that like for every person that was like, oh, super easy, GG. There's someone that's just like, I saw someone. Also, the thing to remember here is, so there is, especially in best of one, like an element of like high rolling stuff, right? High rolling matchups, being on the play, right? You also get like this added thing of like, is my sealed pool going to be good?
Yeah.
If you get like the sealed pool that's like 2 rare lands and like a Maskwood Nexus.
Oh yeah, you're screwed.
Like you're done.
Yeah.
There was someone tweeted, they're like, I think sealed super easy. And their 6 rares were all on color good red-green cards.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, cool. Like you have like an easy time of it.
Right. That's a quarter of your deck. Good job.
Yeah, good job. Good job. You open a quarter of your... You have the best quarter of your deck you can have.
Right.
All right, awesome. Now you just have to hope that, like, you have any number of cards in those colors.
Yeah. I mean, one of the cool things is that your entry reward is the Phyrexian Vorinclex.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
That is.
Usually when they do stuff like this, that's the only way you can get it. So not that I think the Phyrexian Vorinclex is worth $25, but
yeah, it's
if
not
you
worth
wanted
$20.
one, the chances of them offering it some other way are slim to none. Because I don't think you could get the Kaldheim sleeve. I think the only way to get it was by entering the previous Arena Open.
Gotcha. All right, so this is what you're doing with your weekend, or at least part of your weekend.
I mean, at least an hour or so.
At least an hour
Hopefully longer than that, but at least an hour or so.
Hopefully you'll do well enough that you record it.
And well, I'm going to record it. I mean, if I run into a brick wall, chances are I'm not going to release it, but I'll record it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll at least release the
build. Yeah, like just to have that. Yeah. And then you can be like, and then he went 0-3.
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
5 minutes later.
You are eliminated. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good talk, everyone. Yeah, so you mentioned, like, normally you don't get to change your deck between rounds. So, like, let's say you, like, put together, like, a 3-color deck.
Yeah.
And then you were like, oh, wait, no, my deck's really good. I don't need these, like, 2 splash cards, and my mana can be way better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can do that and be like, yes, these 2 cards are 6s, but the rest of my deck's good enough that I can put in 2 4s that are on color and get to cast my stuff. Yeah. I would rather do that because the rest of my deck is a 10.
Yeah, I mean, you can also go, like, right back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
like, you can build a whole new deck if you wanted to. So this is the way that it actually works on Arena.
Yeah.
They let you change your deck as much as you want, but when you're playing, like, in a real tournament, that is not the way it works. You have to play your registered deck.
Yeah.
So that's where the difference is.
So, I think with all of that, we have a show.
I think we have a show.
So if you want to tweet encouragement at James, you can get at him at CasualTryPod.
Yep. You can also hit us up on Facebook at CasualTryHardMTG. As always, you can drop us an email, show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. If you need to pick up some singles, whether it's to build a new deck for one of the formats that got nuked this week, or pick up some Kaldheim cards while they're cheap, use our TCG Player affiliate link, please. It's tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Don't forget, if you want to support us a little bit more directly, you can do so at patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Patrons get early access to show notes. They get access, period, to our pre-show ramblings. I got a couple little giveaways for patrons. Like I said, if you guys want to post up in the Discord, if you're a patron, I'll give you access this week. I've got 2 codes for arena sleeves, one for the basic lands that I think they're out right now, and one for the Seb McKinnon sleeve. First come, first serve. Whoever says I want them, I'll give them to you. And like I said last week, the second round of our Patreon givebacks will probably be coming out in a month, 5 weeks, something like that. So if you guys want in for the next round of givebacks, make sure you're a patron before I post those. Other than that, we have our Discord, probably the best way to get a hold of me. I know Brian spends some time in there also. That's where we do a lot of our freebie stuff. There's a lot of good discussion in there about decks, people posting up deck lists, looking for ideas, suggestions, whatever. I've been trying to stay on top of that. So hop into our Discord. There should be a link in the description. There's a link on Facebook. There's a link on Twitter. If you want in and you can't figure out how to get in, let us know and I'll shoot you a personalized link to get you in.
Sounds good. Oh, we have our YouTube channel. Did we mention our YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the YouTube channel. Man, how did I forget about that?
I know. There's 7 drafts up by the time this comes out. There will be an 8th draft that comes out on Friday. Probably cut back on the drafts a little bit going forward and probably start playing some sort of constructed. So if you have any decks you want me to, like, tool around with, like, let me know and I can give them a go.
Yeah. If I do well, maybe there'll be some more content this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully you do well.
Yeah. Hopefully I do well.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you on the internets.
Catch you on the internets.